$6.
Okay.
If I were going to take a guess.
Hello, folks. This Hangout is live on air. Here I am, 6:16 Central Time. I'm being joined by Tanya out there in California at only 4:16 California time. We were trying to look up a price, and we could not get Bevmo to come up. If I look like I'm in a leisure outfit, I'm wearing this leisurely Hanes t-shirt because you know what? I just took a bath, and I'm not going to stay up late. I'm in leisure mode. Oh, my goodness. But thanks for joining me. And my daughter came over, and she said, let's do all these beer reviews. I said, oh, my goodness. So if things seem not quite, let's say, crisp, blame it on family obligations. Don't blame it on me. All right, but anyway, you had this idea, right? So you brought up this idea, and people, viewers, Tanya Makowski, she does like me. She uses her actual name for her channel. She does beer reviews and sometimes other things, but typically beer from a California perspective, Northern California perspective. Okay, but anyway, you had this idea and you brought up this idea. Let's do whiskey, and you brought up Redemption. Well, I didn't know anything about it. So I said, well, let me check. I'll do the locator tool. Nothing. They say not available in your zip code area. So what did I tell you? I'm sorry, I can't get it. But maybe 2-3 years down the road, it'll show up. Well, what? It must have been like 3 days later. I sent you.
Yeah, if that.
Right. I sent you an email. I said, guess what? Redemption Rye showed up today at Mathern's. Couldn't believe it. And they had it on sale. You know, they're like masters of getting deals. Like they're always getting deals, you know. So they got the Redemption Bourbon, the Redemption Rye, and the Redemption High Rye Bourbon. Well, what I have is the High Rye Bourbon. They were all the same price, $23.99 a bottle. 750 milliliter, typical bottle. Looks like the Bullet bottle, right? Bullet. So I was going to get the Redemption Rye that you talked about. It's gone. People bought that quick. So they had the bourbon and the High Rye Bourbon. I figured, well, you talked about rye. I'll get the High Rye Bourbon, 92 proof. There we are. And you had access to some, so you got some. So there you go.
Yeah, except I've got Redemption Rye, so not bourbon. And my mix is 95% rye. Except mine right now is in a mason jar because I took enough to do this video from somebody that I know borrowed it.
I love to borrow other people's whiskey and beer and wine.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't feel bad about that because anytime I buy something new, I always want to offer it to people to try it. And it's weird because most people don't want to try it. They have their own like set things that they drink and they will not branch out. It's strange.
And that always interests me when I meet people like that. And so I'll tend to say, oh, okay. And then I'm constantly on the lookout for something that's very similar to the one thing that they will drink. And then I try to sneak it on them and see if they'll try it. It doesn't work very well, but I try.
I'll tell people, oh, you want to try this interesting Mexican beer? Oh, no, I'm drinking Bud Light. But I never can understand that because I say, well, you could drink that every day, right? Not that I'm against it, but why wouldn't you want to? But they don't want to branch out. They don't want to.
Yeah.
All right. So since you brought this up, this Redemption, what is your experience with it? Because I'm like new to the game on this. I mean, I'm telling you, I wasn't planning to buy any. You saw my list. You saw the lineup. You can see why I have no interest in buying anything new.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually pretty excited. I didn't know that it came in a bourbon variety. My preference is bourbon. I like bourbon a lot. and mostly because I like to drink bourbon and ginger ale. So I was at my parents' house, and my stepdad has a lot of whiskeys in stock, but he has like Glenfiddich, a bunch of things I can't pronounce, Scotch, Scottish whiskeys, or Scotch whiskey, I suppose is the proper name. Anyway, so then I saw Redemption Rye up there one day. Then I was like, oh, that looks really great. I love rye a lot. I drink a lot of rye beers if I can find them. And so that's how I got turned on to this. So I bought it for myself one time, and it went really fast. And I had the Redemption Rye, so the 95% rye mix. And I love it. I think it's great. I'm excited that it sold out so quickly in your area.
Well, yeah, like I don't think they got a huge amount. They just got some. And then, so like the manager of that store, they're like coming to him and they say, we got this deal, So he'll buy it. And then maybe it's just a isolated amount, right? Maybe 2 cases, that's it. And then when it's gone, it's gone. Like he got this deal on Wild Turkey Bourbon. So he bought it, and then people just blew through it like mad, because it was so cheap.
Because it's cheaper.
Yeah. And so I'm looking at other video reviews and people are getting this Redemption. They're talking about $45 a bottle. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting it for $23.99. So I feel like, well, it's a deal. Now, but so how many years are we talking for you? Like a year, 2 years, 3 years? I don't know.
Good question. In the last couple of months. So maybe since summer, I've been drinking this.
Oh, so maybe 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Tanya, here's John Anile. He's from Georgia. And I talked to him earlier today. And it was so quick. I said, we're going to do this Redemption. If you want to join us, fine. I know you're kind of open-minded about that. But I didn't know if he could get it. What was your experience, John, on this?
I called my local package store and asked if they had the high rye, and they had all the different variants. So I was able to pick up. I think I got the right one.
High rye bourbon.
Oh, just what I got. What was the cost?
It was a little bit more. I think you said yours was $23.99. It was $29.99 for a 750 ml bottle here.
Oh.
Did you see Redemption Rye, just rye by itself?
Yeah, they had both.
Do you recall what the price was on that one?
It was also $29.99.
Okay.
All right. Now, if y'all want to, real fast, I can give you a little history of this company.
Yes, please.
Okay. It was started by 2 guys back around 2009 in Kentucky, K&S. That's their last names, K&S, like distillery company. They called it Barton Distilling, whatever. So they made this little line of products. Started getting a little following, started getting like a cult following, got popular. Well, you know what happens next. 2 years ago, here comes Dutch Family Wine and Distilling. It's a big brand holder in Stamford, Connecticut. May or may not be connected to Diageo. This I do not know. I know the headquarters for Diageo is in Stamford, Connecticut. Doesn't matter. They got an offer for a buyout. They took the offer. Okay. So now it's part of Dutch Family Wine. Dutch Family Wine and Spirits. Their website is linked at the bottom of the Redemption Rye website. If you notice, very quietly, there's a link. All right. So here's the story. They do all the distilling is done in Indiana at the old Seagram's Distillery, which was built in 1847. It's still in production. The Midwest Grain Products. John and Neely, you know about MGP.
Right.
They do a lot of bulk distilling for companies all around North America. See, Diageo, you've heard of Bullet, Bourbon, Bullet. A lot of Sazerac products. They do major production. So what happens is this company, Redemption, which is really not the company, it's just the brand, is distilled in Indiana. They cross the bridge, obviously in a tanker truck probably, ship it down to Barton or Heaven Hill. It's probably one of those two aging and bottling plants. They probably rent the space. It's aged, oddly, it's only aged 1 year, which I thought a bourbon had to be 2 years. I don't know how this is a bourbon or whatever. And it's bottled down there. So it's distilled in Indiana and it's bottled in Kentucky and then sold all over the world, I guess. That's the story. But I don't know how it's a bourbon because I was looking at the Tax and Trade Bureau website today before my daughter came over to do this marathon beer reviewing exercise. But I know that 2 years is to be a straight bourbon. Straight bourbon. If you look at the bottle, it doesn't say straight bourbon. It just says bourbon. So I was trying to figure that out. And then they offer a bunch of very expensive 10-year aged products of various recipes, 10-year age, which I can imagine are not less than $30. They're probably more like in the $100 range, but I don't know that. I haven't seen them. That's the story. So it's been around about 7 years.
It's funny you were talking about the Bullet Bourbon. This bottle looks eerily similar to the Bullet Bourbon bottle.
Yeah. If you looked at the first run before the buyout, their bottles were long and cylindrical like Eagle Rare. You know about Eagle Rare. So they were long like Eagle Rare, and then after the buyout, suddenly they became like Bullet. Oh, well.
I keep trying to look up what you need to do to classify as bourbon, and they're all videos for whatever reason. And so the quick version of it is that it's primarily from corn and it's barrel aged. But I think that there are more strict qualifications, but I don't see anything that says 2 years.
I have basically memorized this because I have looked at the Tax and Trade Bureau website so many times. That's the U.S. government. You can look on their website and they give you the stipulations. It'll say classifications and it goes through the whole list. Okay, they call it straight bourbon, straight bourbon. Now, but this doesn't claim to be a straight bourbon, so let's take that into account. It has to be 51% corn or more, but at least 51% corn. It can be whatever combination. Now, once you get above 51%, it can be in other grains, doesn't matter. Rye, barley, doesn't matter at all. Okay. Has to be aged a minimum of 2 years in new, never before used oak barrels. Yep, I'm looking at that. Charred, it has to be charred oak. Yep, and there's different stipulations about the proof. You're right. Now, another thing, it cannot have any added coloring or flavoring. So if it's brown like this is gold, it's got to be from its own merits. It cannot have added coloring or flavoring. Okay, now, how this gets around the 2-year rule by saying on the bottle that it's aged no less than 1 year, I do not know. So I did see a video, in the first video review I watched, the guy brought that up. So I can't wait to watch the other 20 videos. There's got to be some discussion about it. But it's like a real narrow, and then you can have blended bourbon, and then the blended bourbon has different stipulations, but it still can't have any added coloring or flavoring. It's got to be more like a pure product. I'm no expert, but that's what I'm reading on their website.
Yeah. Interesting. I would like to hear how they got around that, or maybe if it was relaxed recently and now there's not a 2-year stipulation.
I don't know because I just looked at the U.S. government website today.
Well,
They didn't make any. There were no announcements about new stipulations. You see, and this bottle is from 2016.
Yeah.
Now, but remember, the 2-year was for straight bourbon. There actually is no classification called bourbon. There's different types of bourbon, but there's no classification called bourbon. So they might have fallen in between the cracks and just figured, you know how people say, don't ask permission, ask for forgiveness? They might have used that approach. Hey, well.
Whoops. Yeah. So you've been drinking on it, I see.
I'm more like smelling on it because after all that marathon beer reviewing with my daughter, I was having trouble enunciating various normally easily pronounced words. So I figured I better cool it. But you're the forefront on this because you came up with the idea, so you can lead. Go.
Sure. So aroma-wise, I get lots of spiciness out of this. More so, I think, than regular whiskey. It doesn't. I don't think of whiskey necessarily as spicy. Definitely alcohol-y. I think it's actually I've added ice to mine, so I guess we have to look back to when it was in the this mason jar. But it's actually a pretty light color. I think it's lighter than yours is.
Yeah.
So, and my ice has melted, most of the way, so it's a little watered down. Do you find it more spicy than regular bourbons?
Yes. I was rather shocked when I did the review this afternoon. I had a lot of thoughts about it. The appearance wasn't particularly dark when I was sitting outside in the light. Well, it wasn't ever very bright today. It was cloudy, but it seems darker here. It's still at the most just amber. It's not copper or anything. And I noticed right in the aroma, there was a strong peppery note, but my thinking was that it was like a spearmint, which I was shocked about. And I found that, to me, this is me only, I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be, but and I'm going to read comments in a moment, I found that it had flavors and body and appearance, presence, that made me think it tasted more like a blended whiskey, but I loved it. it tasted wonderful nonetheless. But John, what do you think? And then I'll read some comments.
Well, as Tanya mentioned, the color, that was one of the first things I noticed when I picked it up, was that it did have a very light color to it. And then when I looked at the bottle, aged no less than 1 year, I kind of figured a lot of that's due to the aging. And I was also thinking, how could it be a bourbon, 1 year? And I had tried to do some research as well because it just threw me off guard. But getting into this thing, in the nose, I do agree. I picked up some of that mentholation. Like, I wouldn't necessarily call it spearmint, but it does have like a mentholated thing going on in the nose. Definitely a spicy note, that high rye. You definitely pick up that in the nose as well. And then in the taste, you get a lot of the same. Initially, you get that spicy, peppery note. Hits you up front. You get a little bit of alcohol. There's not a lot of sweetness with this one. I do get some oak in this as well. Not a lot of char, but it is there, but it's very light. The main thing with this that I'm picking up is that rye. And I think because it is the high rye and it's aged, for only a year, I think that it just brings out more of that rye character because it doesn't have enough time to, the oak doesn't have enough time to kind of set in, and you know, the whiskey doesn't really absorb a lot of those flavors because it's aged so so little.
Yeah.
And
I've had a couple drinks and I keep smelling this. So this is again the rye and not the bourbon, not the high rye bourbon varieties that you guys have. This one says aged at least 2.5 years in the new charred oak barrels. And I still feel like it's lighter than I thought it would be. You know, and certainly lighter than it suggests in the picture on the website. But I also feel like the more I smell it, the more I get kind of a brown smell out of this, which I think is interesting. I wouldn't necessarily expect that kind of sweet smell. And it doesn't necessarily transfer over to flavor.
a brown what smell?
Sugar.
Oh, brown sugar.
Yeah,
And
so I don't know if
yours-
that's molasses, you know, specifically, whatever brown sugar might smell like.
Yeah, yeah. And yours is 95% rye wheat grain. Wow.
Yeah, 95 rye, 5% barley, and a much longer, you know, more than double the amount of aging that the high rye bourbon has. But not like, it doesn't seem super oaky to me necessarily.
No.
You know, mostly it's just spicy.
Yeah, I think these whiskeys are like really shooting for the spice, not the oak and the char. I mean, I was about to say, the Beam's 8-star has more char on it than this, which is amazing. You know, I want to read a few comments. Now, of course, the Beam's 8-star is $7.99 a bottle. Hey, Ron, can you send me an oh, that was John's. Okay. Joey Shake says, love your channel, Ron. Always come to you when I want to try new things. Hey, Joey Shake 72. I appreciate you watching. And I thank you for watching. Now, Jason Voorhees says, Ron, crossing over to the dark side. I don't know what you mean by that. It's nighttime. I'm always reviewing it in the dark. John 100%. Oh, yeah, 100%. 100% says, where you at, William Kepley? Hey, you know, William Kepley came back last week, and he wants to do a retrospective, so you might see him before the end of the year. Jason says, bourbon regulations are a lot more strict than, say, Canadian whiskey or Scotch. You said it, because Canadian whiskey and Scotch can use, first of all, filler, and well, blended bourbon can do that. But more importantly, Canadian whiskey and Scotch can use added coloring and flavoring, whereas bourbon cannot use that. It says, Jason says he really wants to try their rye. I think you'd like it. Tim's Brew in South Carolina says it's shooting for the rye taste. Oh, have you had it, Tim? I do think they're going for rye full bore. Okay, I'm not going to say too much more. I did a solo review. I've already posted it. I'm getting wood. I'm getting char, but it's the undertaste. It is not overt. The rye, the spice, the mint. Well, I say spearmint, but that is the leader of the pack. You know, the leader of the pack. But I think it's a dynamite product, and I don't know how they can do all this with just a 1-year age. But they didn't say it was aged 1 year. They said no less than 1 year, so it could be higher. But it's an amazing product to me. Oh, he said, yeah, he's had it. Okay, so I'm going to turn the floor over to Tanya and John. But I'm very pleased with it. I'm so delighted that Tanya came up with this idea, because it's really something else, you know. Okay.
Well, just kind of, I guess, to reiterate what I was saying earlier, is that I enjoy this, and so I've every opportunity I've had to drink it, I definitely have, it's only shown up in my life recently, I think what excited me about it is that it says pre-prohibition rye revival. You know, and I'm always interested in trying like historic styles of things, and kind of comparing how they might have been one time versus how they are now. Although arguably I don't drink a lot of whiskey. Like I said, I like bourbon. and I usually drink it as a cocktail, which kind of decimates any finer points of flavor. But I like this product a lot. I found a local store website that suggested it was $27.99 in my area, which I think is a full $10 cheaper than I expected it was going to be listed for. I buy Maker's Mark bourbon and billet bourbon, and oops, we lost him. Both of those I think are about $10 more expensive in this area. So I find it impressive that this is a third of the price and is really very drinkable and delicious.
Yeah. I agree. This is I mean, my version's a little bit different than yours, but I mean, this is an excellent bourbon. It'll give, I don't know if you've ever had Old Granddad, but that's a very high rye mash bill bourbon, and this gives it a run for its money in the spicy department because it just hits you up front with that peppery note, and then it follows through in the initial taste and in the finish. And it does have enough character from the oak too. You get a little bit of that char. You do, as I've been sipping on it, I do pick up a little bit of sweetness as well, maybe like some toffee notes in the middle of the sip. But I mean, it's definitely rye forward. But if you gave this to me, and I mean, I would say it was probably, I would say at least 4 years. I would have never guessed that this is a 1 year aged product.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's much more mature than you were expecting. I wonder if that's not how they achieve that high spice, like Jay was saying. Since it's only been a year, it hasn't taken on a lot of the qualities of the barrel aging necessarily. But whatever their magic, I feel like they're doing a good job of it.
Right.
So, yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad he's back. So I'm going to say, what happens if we go away?
Now, this happens from time to time. He'll always pop back on. These hangouts have a mind of their own.
Yeah. I can't get it to work on my MacBook in my Chrome. No, excuse me, in my Safari browser for the life of me right now, which is ridiculous. I remember taking it forever last time. Sometimes
they just fail, But no, you were saying about you buy Maker's Mark and Bullet. Those are about $30 a bottle, no, maybe less.
I think about 36. I feel like that's my threshold for buying bourbon. So let me actually just fact check myself. I shouldn't rely on memory.
Hey, John, you think I should put this into the taste challenges? It could be pretty interesting.
It definitely could be. It's so it's got that huge rye presence up front, though. I mean, you definitely have to put it up against Old Granddad. I don't know if you have any of the Old Granddad pods.
No, I went through all that.
Oh.
But it's going to be weird, because most of the bourbons I do, they have that corn. Well, this has that spice. It's really strange. Well, I'll try it. It's almost like it's a different style of drink.
But yeah, I was telling Tanya when you got kicked off there for a second, it really does have a lot of character to it. To be aged only 1 year, I mean, let's be realistic. It's not going to be aged much longer than 1 year. Maybe not even a day over 1 year. They just say at least 1 year. But I mean, if you gave this to me in like a blind, taste test, I would guess that this is 3 to 4 years old. I would have never guessed that this is just a 1 year product. It's got a lot going for it, and it could be that because it does have such a high rye note up front, like it's kind of masking some of the lighter notes that you're getting on the back end because of the aging is not as long. But I mean, it's pretty dang good.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Remember they had some articles about people that invented these accelerated aging processes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what they're using.
But I think, being that it's classified as a bourbon, they would have to disclose if they used any pressure aging or anything like that.
You would assume. Now, Jason Voorhees says American distillers are experimenting with things like special finishes, Angel's Envy, non-traditional mash bills, Woodford Reserve Full Grain, or something like Jefferson Ocean High West Campfire. Yeah, like it's extrapolating into or expanding into all types of different variants, sort of like beer with craft beer. Like you can't have 50 different people doing the same thing, because then people say, well, what's interesting about that? So then it just keeps expanding. Now, that could lead to a problem with a flooded market and people starting to go under. But since we're just consumers, we drink it and taste it, we don't sell it. That's really not our problem. Jordan Heath says, hey, Ron, could you compare Evan Williams bottled in bond and the black label? Yes, I could do that. If you're 36 years old, I will do that when you're about 46, because of the backstock issue I have. This is not even supposed to be done tonight.
You would be impressed if you received the email that I received this morning from Jay that said, here in this large paragraph is all of the whiskey that I currently have. I shouldn't buy this. Then the next email, all right, I got it. It's 4 p.m.
You would either be impressed or appalled. Maybe appalled. But, you know, almost everything I listed in that email I sent you was, it's like I keep finding all these deals. You know what I mean? Like something that should be $25, I'm finding it for $11, or something that should be $15, I'm finding for $8. You know what I mean? Like, so like strange prices. So, well, you say, oh, heck, I'll just buy it. But then eventually you got this huge, overwhelming backstock.
Worse things can happen.
Oh, well, what the heck?
Bad thing.
I mean, I forgot. I didn't even mention to Tanya, I'm thinking of somebody else. Tanya, that I had the, blame it on, I didn't even mention to her that I had the VO Gold. That's another one I forgot to mention. But and that's coming up very soon. John Annealy knows about that. He's already been cheating and drinking it. But, and my friend David, I bought him a gift bottle, and he drank it, and he said it was dynamite. So, and he's an actual drinker. I'm just a taster, but he's a drinker. You know what I mean? So he can get very deep into the experiential appreciation of the liquors. Because I told him, I said, let's do some more of that mellow corn. He said, oh, that's been gone. He's not like me. He's not going to have a bottle of whiskey that's going to sit around for a year and slowly drink through it. You know, he's not going to do that. It's going to go quick. All right, anyway, so final thoughts. Oh, and I still have some brandy to get through, but it's going along well. I finished the Saint Remy. I still got the Paul Masson VSOP, and I got the Christian Brothers VSOP, and the Sacred Bond, and then that's it for that. But final thoughts on the Redemption series.
I give it thumbs up. I think it's solid. I'd keep buying it. And you're right about the price of Maker's Mark and Bullet. They're 23, 26, something like that, dollars a bottle. So I guess this is in the same price range. I guess my mental cap is $36 for a bottle most of the time, since I'm mixing it with ginger ale. Anyway, so this squarely falls into something that I would buy all the time. And I hope to see it when I go to pick up bourbon next time, and I'll probably start drinking rye and ginger ale.
So what you're telling me is you would not get that Wild Turkey Special Edition for $117 a bottle.
Not to mix as cocktails, right? I mean, I feel like at some point when you buy alcohol, if you spend enough money on it, you shouldn't mix it.
Right. Because there's a store in this town. They have like these super ultra deluxe offerings, you know. And I said, who in the world buys that stuff? $117 a bottle, and even more. But I guess there's people that buy it. And I talked to one guy that buys it. I said, what do you think? Is it worth it? He said, oh, I don't drink it. He said, I just have a room full of bottles that I've been buying since 1968. I'm buying them to save. I said, well, when you're 115, you can cash out.
I guess. Is there a resale for that? Or, you know, some kind of apocalypse situation happens and he's like, you know, well, I've got this room full of whiskey. Come on over, guys.
Right. I don't know. I was trying to figure out his logic behind it, but he does it, and he's the one that orders this Pappy Van Winkle and all this extraordinarily rare stuff, and he never drinks it. But anyway, if I'm buying it, I'm drinking it, you know, but that's me. All right, John, any final thoughts on it?
I think it's pretty good. It's definitely very rye forward. The price point is a little bit high in my area at $29.99 a bottle. I would probably, if I wanted a high rye bourbon, I would probably gravitate more towards the Old Grandad. That's a little bit cheaper here.
Yeah.
Or the Bonded is cheaper as well. I think it's $26.99 for the 750 ml bottle of the Bonded. But it is good, and I'm glad I bought the bottle. It's definitely a very interesting product. It's shocking, really, that it's only aged for 1 year. It really does have a lot going for it. And like I said, the Old Grandad is a little bit cheaper, and it still has the high rye, that presence up front, but it is a little bit more balanced, I find. So I would tend to gravitate more towards that. But this is very good. I'm glad I bought the bottle, and I would give it a thumbs up as well.
Yeah, and my final thoughts is similar. I think at $23.99, that was like right in where I would pull the trigger when Tanya mentioned it. If it had been above that, I probably would have said, no, I want to wait. And I think I did have a legitimate reason to wait looking at my back stock. But, well, we get the Sazerac rye, and it's literally the same price, about $24 a bottle. So I thought, what the heck. But, yeah, for this price point, between $24 and $25 a bottle, I think it's a dynamite product. It's got, and I said that in my solo review, which is already posted, it has some honeycomb, some beeswax. It has even some dried flowers. But I said spearmint. You didn't agree. But there's definitely a mint type thing going on. You get a lot of little complexities. The only thing that was throwing all three of us off was the aging, which seems to be peculiar. But we don't drink age. We drink the flavor, right? We drink what's in the bottle. So maybe the company will contact me tomorrow, call me up. And actually, that's never happened in my life. But anyway, but I would recommend it if you want to spend $25 or less. Let's say $30 max for kind of an oddball item. But I don't mean in flavor. It's enjoyable in flavor. I just mean in the kind of history of it. But check it out. I don't think you'll go wrong. I don't think you'll be displeased. I would look at the last few comments before we knock this thing off the air. Tyler says, how does this compare to 10 High? Well, I mean, you know, 10 High is a good deal cheaper. We're talking about $15 cheaper. So it's got a lot more character than 10 High, but that's not to disparage 10 High. It'd be like saying, well, you're driving a Lincoln. How does it compare to a Ford LTD? Well, obviously the Lincoln's going to have a lot more going for it, but that doesn't mean the Ford is bad. Now, Jason says, what do you think will be the long-term effects of the craft beer movement? Well, I've been talking about this for years. Will the macros take over, or will there be two camps? Oh, it'll be like, my prediction is that there'll be more buyouts. Yep, more buyouts. That's the nature of the game. People have accused me of saying that I claimed that craft beer was going to disappear. I would challenge anyone to find out any video where I ever made that statement. But you got a lot of work to do because you ain't going to find that.
And there are a lot of videos to watch.
A lot of videos. I've never said that. There's nowhere I've ever said that craft beer was going away. All I ever said was that it would retract to an extent because I said there was too much product on the market. There was too many brands chasing too few buyers. And so there would be a consolidation of the market, or if you want to call it a crash. Craft beer is not going away. There was a market for high quality beer 80 years ago. It just was a smaller market. There's a market today. Now, will there continue to be buyouts? Of course. Will there be two camps? Yeah, but if you read that book called The Craft Beer Revolution, they talk about how until around 1985, there really weren't two camps. There was just beer. And a lot of this craft versus macro goes back to one guy who decided to make it a war. But I don't want to get into Boston Beer Company and Samuel Adams right now, but it was sort of like a conflict that didn't need to exist. Okay, a few more comments. I'd spend $100 plus for a Scotch or a cognac, but not a bourbon. Okay. I wouldn't.
I'm interested in knowing why. If they just really don't like the corn flavor, or they don't like corn as a grain. I guess that's kind of the same. I want to know why. So if you're still listening, tell me why in a comment.
Right, that's a good point. Why? Why would you do that? Because my experience with cognac is minimal, although I have some experience with it. Scotch is extremely minimal, so I don't know much about Scotch. Jason says, first, not the biggest fan, and second, I'm not sure there's much difference between a $50 versus a $300. Oh, and I'm not a collector. Okay, I don't know quite what you're talking about. Oh, you must mean a $50 bottle of liquor versus $300. Well, that's way over me. That's way above me because I haven't been cruising in that lane.
I would also be curious what $300 bottles of liquor that they might be comparing to the $50 or under $50 versions. You know, I feel like really when it gets to that kind of price, it really just is, you're drinking it and you're like, oh yeah, this is really good. Okay, I can see why people just sip this as opposed to drinking in cocktails. And then you don't want to put it in a cocktail because you enjoy it for its flavor. So it really depends on what flavor you want from what you're drinking and what enjoyment you get out of it. If you don't care that it's crap and you're just looking for the alcohol buzz, then price doesn't matter. If you want a really interesting particular flavor, then yeah, you can go seek that out, but that will, you know, take you up in price gradations, and you're not going to dilute it by making it into a cocktail. I think that was kind of the point that I was trying to make earlier. So I don't really know that those are comparable, $300 and $50. I don't know.
I totally agree with you. People are going to be watching my channel for many decades before I get the $300 bottles of any kind of whiskey. So let's see, it's 2017. Check back with me in 2047. And I might be doing, so you're at the wrong channel. You're looking for Maserati, but you're watching Chevrolet. And I'm sorry, but
also, inflation will keep this bottle that we're drinking today at the $300 price in 2047. So, you know, we'll be drinking the same thing.
Right, but it won't be the same. Okay, Jason said, oh, and Aaron says, where's William? I don't know where William is. William's probably watching. Jason says, Pappy is pure marketing. I've heard people say that. I've heard people say they pay $25 bourbon that is better. Look, I don't know if Pappy Van Winkle is worth the price. I've never bought a Pappy Van Winkle. I've tried it. Somebody gave me a vial of it. It was wonderful. Would I pay $95 a bottle? If you watch my channel, you will realize that no, because I have reviews for Carlo Rossi wine, Wild Irish Rose wine, and Hurricane Malt Liquor. So why would you think I would buy Pappy Van Winkle for $95 a bottle? I mean, this is not the channel.
If you got it for a great price, you would buy it. I know it.
You're at Denny's, right? Right now you're watching Denny's. You're not watching Commander's Palace. You're watching Denny's and Shoney's and In-N-Out Burger. Okay, this is not highbrow, but it's trying to be. But we would like you to send us thousands of dollars so that we can be. Okay, there are 23 goes for thousands of dollars. Right, I would not pay thousands of dollars for a drink. I would pay thousands of dollars for a car. A vacation to Spain and North Africa, not a bottle of a liquor. But that's me. Other people would. I'm not Donald Trump. So, okay. Tim said I bought 200 bottle of tequila and a $20 was better. See? Now, I watched I would rather watch Cannonball Run than Out of Africa. Out of Africa won Best Picture in 1985, but I would rather watch Cannonball Run. Okay, Jason says, well, I hate tequila, so that's that. All right, well.
Done.
All right. Well, you know how things go off the rails. Well, anyway, I don't know about you, Tanya and John, but I don't think you will ever see me drinking a $300 bottle of any kind of drink unless it's donated. It will not be purchased by this person in your viewing area.
I would say never, because occasionally I get this mood and I'm like, I'm going to try insert thing here, and I'll go and do it or drink it or buy it or whatever. So maybe, but maybe not the whole bottle. Maybe I would just drink it at the bar and have, you know, a glass of it. I like to buy things by the glass because that gives me the opportunity to try more things.
Well, I admire your adventurous nature, and I openly admit that my conservative nature is sometimes not a positive attribute. Okay, John.
If I could find a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle for less than $100, I think I would buy it, because that's one that's on my bucket list. And you know, getting more into these bourbons, these whiskeys, you know, it's at the top. It's at the top of my list for sure, because it's just so renowned, and it's just got such a prestigious name and reputation. So I would, if I could get it for less than $100, I would definitely buy a bottle. But from what I've seen, you're looking at $200-300, and then if you go to like the 2023 Family Reserve, then you're looking at maybe thousands of dollars. And like you said, Ron, I'd rather buy a car for that amount of money. But for $100 or less, I could see myself buying a bottle of something like that, just to try it and keep it in my collection.
Okay, so the two people that joined me today, this evening, will step out to buy high quality stuff, and what we have proven is that I'm a schmo. I won't.
No, I don't think schmo has anything to do with it. Like I said, I have a threshold. I won't buy more than a $36 bottle of bourbon if I'm going to be mixing cocktails with it. You know, so, you know, that's my threshold. $50 is a lot of money to some people, you know, but I buy the cheap ones. I'm like, nah, I don't like this as much. So the $36 threshold has gotten me cocktails that I enjoy a lot now, and I finish it and I'm like, I would like another. But that's expendable income, preference for taste, you know, whatever. I don't think that that makes you, you know, schmo or schmuck or anything. I think that's just your personal preference and what you're going to spend money on and what makes sense to you.
But I have no escape route because in my case, I never drank mixed drinks. I only drank stuff neat. So see, I can't say, oh, well, the mixed drink. What mixed drinks do I drink? None, just neat. So, well, oh, well, what you going to say now? And my answer is, hey, look over there.
I can't spend $36 or more on that bottle because then I can't have 52 types of whiskey in stock. It doesn't make sense.
Right, right. So, see how I trap myself in all these? All right. Well, anyway, hey, people, look. Tanya suggested it. I was minding my own business. Brought up Redemption Rye. I was not planning to do it. And you know I wasn't. You people know I was not planning to do Redemption Rye because I got so many, let's call it value conscious brands in the cabinet. But she said it and I couldn't back out. But I'm so delighted that I tried it. I would recommend it. That's it. I like it. And I can't wait to put it in the rotation for the taste challenges. So that's about it. I got to get off of this internet. What do you call this? Social media internet. All right, John and Tanya, last words.
None here. Thank you for trying it. I enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed it, John.
Well, thank you. Thanks to you for making, you know, the recommendation for this and getting Ron to do this video because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think this is such an interesting product, and I would I'd like to see it a little bit cheaper. I know it's cheaper in y'all's area, but if I could get it for $23.99 regularly, I'd buy a lot more of it. I mean, I would buy it more regularly.
Right. I got you. Well, oh boy, tomorrow night I'm going to join Eric Fraunfelter and Tanya, you can too. And John too. He's got this idea. He wants to examine German beers. So I already got my optimator. I've got my optimator and I'm ready to roll. And then in 2 weeks, 2 weeks and a day, get ready because we're doing Seagram's VO Gold, which has been discontinued. But I got my bottle. David tried his bottle and he loved it. John Anile has been taking sips and he likes it. Whether Tanya wants to join, I do not know. But anyway, VO Gold in 2 weeks and a day on January 3rd. That's a Canadian. So that's it. Oba, we are finished. Thanks, folks, for watching this video production. Everybody have a good, safe week.